so it just records.
Okay.
Record me then. Okay, great. Okay, so welcome, Sandra. And you just want to get into an easy, like, sitting position. Doesn't need to be cross legs, comfortable. You can even be in a chair for this. And just to remind you of the Nadi-Shodanam. So we're going to try and breathe down mainly into the belly area and the lower ribs and at the back and at the front. And you just let your breath flow in and out of the belly quite freely. You don't need to force it. So we're moving towards diaphragmatic breathing. So the main muscle is the diaphragm, which pushes down as you breathe in. So the belly swells up, and then as you relax the diaphragm, the belly sinks back. So that's the breath. So we'll just do that for a bit. And then with the hand, if you remember, you make this little mudra. So you bring your index finger and middle finger down, and then you can just use that to close one nostril very lightly and then close the other one. So you just use the thumb and the other fingers, okay? But let's just center ourselves a little bit with the breath and some mindfulness. You can close your eyes and just let yourself come into a seated position, feeling the vertical axis of the spine, and just bringing yourself to the session. So however you are, even if you're feeling like off center or tired or frazzled, that's fine. We can just bring ourselves to the session. So it's going to be a slow class based around some breath work and some yin yoga poses. We're going to do some really classic yin poses. So it's just as a sequence that just came up for me this afternoon. I was thinking about the practice, just some classic yin yoga sequence. But to start with, we're going to tune in with the body, tune in with our mood, and wherever you are, getting a sense of the space around you, the room, the evening light, touching on the eyelids, and see if you can let go. So you can just let yourself go, be led through the practice. Let your body guide you through the practice. And then we're going to start to breathe, or be a bit more conscious of breathing down into the belly. So it may help to bring the hands. I quite like to rest the hands on the belly to begin with. And I'm breathing freely through the nostrils, inhale, exhale, at my own rhythm. Inhaling, exhaling, just freely through the belly, moving towards diaphragmatic breathing. And then you can just rest just your left hand on the belly. And with the right hand, we're going to bring the index finger and middle finger down to the thumb base. And then we're going to close the right nostril and breathe out and in through the left nostril 3 times. So you exhale, inhale 3 times through the left nostril. Nice, easy rhythm, no forcing. Breathing out, breathing in 3 times on the left. Then we're going to close the left nostril, exhale, inhale 3 times on the right. Nice, easy rhythm at your own rhythm, at your own rate. Exhale, inhale 3 times. And then you let go, just let go, let your hands rest onto your legs or into your lap. So the objective of Nadi-Shodanam is sometimes translated as cleansing or purifying the nadis, purifying the channels. And the effect is one, what we're aiming for is a sense of calm and balance in the body. So that's the aim. So it's a gentle breath through, mainly through the belly. And we'll do 3 rounds. So that was the first round. So once again, you bring your index and middle finger down to the thumb base. Exhale, inhale 3 times on the left. Switch over and exhale, inhale 3 times on the right. And release. That's the second round. So it should feel really quite gentle, quite calming. Relatively simple version where we do 3 breaths on one side, 3 on the other. So we'll do one more round. Seems as a tradition. I don't think there's any particular reason for doing sets of 3. So we'll do one more round. So you close the right, exhale, inhale 3 times on the left. Exhale, inhale 3 times on the right. And release. So it's quite a simple practice. I find it quite useful just as a centering practice, just at the beginning or the end of a class or a session. So we're going to get hold of the bolster now. And so there shouldn't be anything that's not too familiar here. We're going to put the bolster across the mat. It is good to have some sort of cushioning for the head, okay? So I'm going to bring the floor up by putting 3 bricks. I know that 3 bricks is good. I mean, if you've got more flexibility in the upper back, you could have 1 or 2 bricks there, or even no bricks. And then you lay down with the bolster going across the tips of the shoulder blades. And then we bring the soles of the feet together. This is one of the first yin poses I learned, even before I learned yin yoga. So it's something we used a lot in the Iyengar school. And if you can, you rest your arms, can be above the head or to the sides. And you should feel this as a stretch through the upper back. Okay, so we'll close the eyes. I'll try not to keep you too long in the poses. So do feel free to come out if we're staying too long, because I sometimes can lose track of time. So one way of working with this, if you want to be really disciplined, is you just use a timer. So like an egg timer, set 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 1 minute or 5 minutes, whatever. And then it just reminds you when the time is up. But I prefer to work a little bit more intuitively, listening to a sense of an internal clock and remembering to the basic dynamic here is one of softening and letting go. So it's the closest we get to like a passive practice. It does require some discipline to do on your own. And the discipline is one of just staying present and attentive. So we need to scan through the body, tuning with sensations. Like I'm really noticing around the tips of the shoulder blades, middle of the back. There's a stretch there. Also noticing a little bit around the shoulders. And then, of course, the groins. Okay, so you can have your feet together and it brings some gentle pressure to the inner legs. So the main force, sort of active force in Yin Yoga is gravity. So we're trying to work with gravity. So you don't need to add any additional work, no muscular effort, minimal muscular effort. I'm working with gravity. So it's a really useful practice, particularly if you've had a busy time or very active time. It allows your body to rest and open and soften. And we can stay connected with the breath. Still, if you can, stay connected with the space around you. Sense of the room that you're in, maybe surrounded by the things very familiar to you. So you can bring that into your awareness. And the breath can be completely free. So if you're breathing into the belly, that's fine. If you're breathing into the upper body, that's fine. See if you can let go of the arms, let go of the legs. Let go of the neck and shoulders. And then from there, we're going to bring the legs up. So bringing the soles of feet onto the floor again. So with depending on how high the bolster is, it can be quite intense for the upper back. So I wouldn't sit up. What I would do is bring yourself, slide down towards the feet if you can. You maybe need to just lift the head a little bit. You slide down, push the bolster out of the way, and come into a simple semi-supine position. So the back is now flat on the floor, so you should feel a more neutral shape there. And it is challenging for the spine. Okay, so it's an extension of the spine. So we'll just release the spine by bringing the hands onto the knees. Very simple Apanasana. So as you exhale, bring the knees towards you. You don't need to pull, you're just floating the knees in. As you inhale, floating the knees away. And we'll gently repeat this 6 or 8 times. Exhale, folding in. Inhale, floating away and looking down or feeling down into your body. Looking for a sense of simple pleasure, simple enjoyment in the body, in the posture work, in the breath work. Softening the face, softening the eyes, softening the jaw. Really with the yin practice emphasizing receptivity and letting go. This Apanasana is a gentle mobilizing movement. From there, let your feet drop to the floor. We're going to turn around and come to all fours. And I did a lot of work yesterday in the garden, so I wanted to do some work on the shoulders. So we'll come into all fours, and the first movement is going to be cat-cow. So as you exhale, you roll the pelvis back and look through the legs, and as you inhale, roll the pelvis forwards, take the gaze forwards. 2 or 3 movements here to feel your spine, mobilize the spine, tune in with the shoulders, the upper back. Even after that initial stretch, lying over the bolster, you're going to feel the upper back, like you brought awareness into that area. We've been starting to open the upper back. And then from all fours, I want you to bring your left hand forwards, like one palm or two or three palms forward, should I say. Let's step it forward. And then the right hand, the right forearm, you cross your space. And then we look underneath the folded arm. So I'm turning towards the long arm, but I'm going to turn the head the opposite way. And I'm looking towards the folded arm. So I'll just show this the other way around. Generally, it feels better on the neck to look towards the folded arm. And then you just let weight sink into the upper back. So this pose I wouldn't recommend for more than a minute or two because it's quite intense on the shoulders, the upper back, the neck even. But the intention here is to let your weight sink slightly forwards towards the head and the shoulders, the forearms, both forearms on the floor. And some of your weight is sinking back. So it's always good to position the knees forwards of the hips behind the line of the knees. Taking 4 or 5 breaths here. And then from there you come up, swing up carefully into all fours again. Coming into cat-cow, so you fill out the upper back with the exhale, really opening through the upper back, pressing the hands towards the floor. Inhale, lifting the chest forwards, sternum forwards. And repeat a couple of times. Exhale, filling out the upper back, so a sense of almost separating the shoulder blades. And then we'll go to the other side. So now my right arm comes forwards and my left forearm crosses the mat, and I turn the gaze opposite, so towards the folded arm, and release down. So just for the sake of my voice, I'm going to turn around so I can face towards the microphone. So the elbows are spread slightly wider than the shoulders. The knees are forwards of the hips. It's a really simple pose, but it's very powerful for the upper back and shoulders. We're creating space around the shoulder joint. One of the dynamics in yin yoga is a sense of traction. So we're like pulling the joints apart. It's like almost like pulling the shoulder or the arm out of the shoulder joint to create a sense of space there. Always working very gently. So we're always working very gently, emphasizing softening. Always working within our limits. Working on a myofascial level. So we're working on the ligaments, tendons, fascia. And we're aware that this material is slow moving, relatively rigid, and we're just gently teasing it out. That's the objective. From there, on an inhale, carefully swinging up, no brusque movements. Exhale again, filling into the upper back, opening the upper back. Inhaling, floating the chest forwards, the gaze forwards, rolling the pelvis forwards. Exhale, roll the pelvis back, looking back. Two or three times. And then we'll come into version 2 of the quarter dog. So this is like quarter dog with a twist. So I'm going to take the left arm again forwards, but this time I'm going to thread the right arm underneath and turn to look to one side. So in this case, my left arm is off the floor. So the left elbow is off the floor. So a little bit more intense on the forward arm. Again, the hips behind the line of the knees. This should feel like a good stretch down into the shoulder, particularly well, both shoulders, right? So you've got like an internal rotation on the lower arm and more of an extension on the top arm. I'm keeping my knees up about hip width, if not a little bit wider, so I feel really stable across the pelvis. And I'm tuning in with the sensations. Sensations, ironically, in the yin practice, they can be quite intense because it's such a still practice. There's no movement to distract you from the sensations. There's a sort of purity to the quality of the sensations. So there's a sort of continuous flow of sensations, which can be quite intense for beginners. Okay. Okay, from there, carefully swinging out. Take your time, no brusque movements. Coming into all fours. Opening the upper back. On the exhale, rolling the pelvis back. On the inhale, rolling the pelvis forwards. I'm just going to change my directions. Can face the camera. And then we're going to take the right arm forwards, keeping the right arm long. And then the left arm goes underneath and you extend the left arm out, palm facing up. So there's a little bit of a twist, more of a twist through the upper back. So this is like version quarter dog with a twist. There's a sense of the forward arm long, straight, the elbows floating off the floor. But with the left hand, the whole of the arm, left arm is resting on the floor. And again, playing with the weight distributions. You can have more, if it's too intense on your shoulders or your neck, try to take more weight back towards your hips. And if you want to increase the load forwards, where you bring your hips a little bit more forwards, and then more weight goes into the upper body. So we're sort of playing off the upper and the lower body with this pose. Breathing there. So again, this pose is pretty intense on the shoulders. And so like a minute or two is probably long enough. So look carefully coming up, carefully swinging up and round. And let's just take a pause. So you just come into a simple seated position. I'm just going to sit back onto my feet, just rest there, absorb the experience. So I can feel a lot of sensation in the upper back. They're quite stimulating, these poses, for the joints, connective tissue. So we are stimulating the circulation on a physical level, but also energetically, unblocking the channels. And then from here, okay, we're going to sit back, take the legs wide, okay? And this is a symmetrical pose, so I just thought I'd give the shoulders a rest now. And you can have a bolster to rest forwards, although it might be still a long way to go, okay? Like this is not an easy pose for me. They're called dragonfly. So the legs coming out straight. You can very briefly lengthen up. It's not an active lengthening up, and then you just let yourself fall forwards. Just come to wherever you come to, releasing down and forwards. So like the bolster's still quite a long way for me. I need to get a few more bricks. If you can, it's quite helpful to rest the head. Can be a little bit more restful, but you should feel this pulling on the inner legs and the back of the body. So the back of the body, that chain of muscles, connective tissue from the back of the head through the back of the body, back of the pelvis, back of the legs, down into the soles of the feet. We're opening that out, stimulating what are called the bladder channel, which runs down the back of the body, the bladder meridian. I'm keeping my feet slightly active so the feet are more or less in the vertical, but you can work with completely passive legs. Keeping the head releasing, the face releasing, releasing the shoulders. Letting go where you can let go. And then from there, carefully releasing up. Just let your spine float back up towards the vertical. And then from there, we'll drop back onto the back of the body. So you can bring your hands around the back of the knees, draw the legs in. And once again, just come down onto the back of your body into semi-supine. So we'll carry on with the work in the groins. This is, again, a classic yin pose. So we're going to float the feet up, and then you take hold of maybe the big toes or the inner feet. I quite like to take hold of the inner heels. And I just let my weight sink down, okay? Or might take hold of the outer feet. The idea is to keep the sacrum more or less on the floor. And you can close the eyes, sometimes called the happy baby pose or the stirrup pose, I guess because the hands make the shape of like a stirrup for the feet. And you just let yourself ease, particularly if you can, the back of the pelvis sink towards the floor. Legs passive, this works more strongly into the groins. The inner legs, particularly like closer to the pelvis. Yeah, so the last pose is more like working the whole leg. This is working more specifically into the groin area. So you can soften the neck. Again, it's a symmetrical pose, so we're working both sides of the body at the same time. Remembering that poses generally they're going to fall into two categories, either symmetrical or asymmetrical. So asymmetrical poses, you've got to work both sides. You want to be aiming to do more or less the same timings on each side. So it's where it does help having a timer to be a bit more disciplined about that. Okay, and releasing down, let your feet drop down to the floor. Again, let's just absorb the experience. So I think one of the challenges with this practice is just the proposition to slow down and experience yourself more fully. So that can be really quite challenging, that shift, particularly if you come from a really busy period or active period or agitation. That slowing down can be quite challenging. Okay, from here, we're going to once again roll onto the belly. And yeah, have the bolster not too far away. In fact, we can have it in front of us. And so we're going to do a little bit of work for the back. I've been exploring this pose. I do like really regularly every day, pretty much, or at least the days that I practice, which these days is a bit more regular. So it's called the Sphinx or the seal. So the basic position, depending on how your back feels, is just to prop yourself up on your forearms. The tops of the feet are on the floor. I've just been playing a bit with the angle of the legs or the rotation of the legs, but I'm suggesting you just start with the tops of the feet on the floor, and you can work quite passively, but I quite like to have a little bit of lift from the pubic bone through the belly, through to the sternum, through the front of the body, through to the throat. It's a sense of slightly lifting the front of the body away from the floor. I'm taking the gaze towards the horizon. So it's, again, it's an extension of the spine. I'm connecting with the breath, allowing the shoulders to release, although there's a sense of slightly lifting up, very slightly, very subtle. And you shouldn't be feeling any kind of unpleasant compression in the lower spine. So if that's the case, you just bring your forearms more forwards. And if you're not feeling very much, what you can do is bring the bolster in and prop yourself up on the bolster so you come a little bit higher. I quite like then to place the palms together, but it really depends on your spines. If you're working from from the video, just be really aware of that. I'm just aware some people may do this later on, but really attentive to what's going on in your lower back. You will feel some compression, but it doesn't want to feel like a risky compression, okay? Okay, then from there we release down. Release down, you can push the bolster forwards. Just rest your head to one side. Let go there. And then the second version, I quite like to make the arms into a cactus shape. And then I'm going to take the feet wider and turn the feet out. So the inner edges of the feet are on the floor. And then I'm going to lift again, this time coming up with almost straight arms, if you can, propping yourself up so it's a bit more intense. The sensation in the lower back, more compression. If that's too intense for you, come back down and bring your hands further forwards. And do it with the hands further forward. So you go for a shallower back bend. If you want a bit more challenge, then bring the hands closer in. And again, the gaze can be slightly forwards and up in this case. You're looking to get just enough challenge where it feels as a satisfactory extension of the spine, but not a risky sensation of compression in the lower back. Pubic bone is down. You're letting your weight sink into the pubic bone and then lifting from there gently up through the front of the body towards the throat, towards the chin. And then once again from there, releasing down, all the way down to the floor. And turn the head to the opposite side. So you can turn the head and rest. Release your arms. Completely softening there. And tuning into the lower body. So we're just going to do one more stretch, which involves an extension. So I'm going to actually turn away from the camera because what's important is what happens with the legs. So I'm going to roll onto my side. And then I want you to place the bolster underneath your top leg. So hopefully you can see that. So I'm placing my top leg. I'm lying on my left side, my right knee. I'm placing on the bolster. And then my left leg, you can prop yourself up on your hand like this. The left leg, I take back and I reach back for the left foot and gently stretch the thigh. So this is sometimes called the cat tail pose. And I'm stretching my left thigh and I'm resting my right leg. Once you've set it up, you can rest your head down and breathe. This is a really useful alternative to Supta Virasana, which I'll show it in a moment. So I'm stretching out the front of the left leg. Again, breathing. So I'm taking hold of my lower leg with the top arm. And then from there, release the lower leg. So I'll just show it the other way around. So I'm rolling onto my right side. I'm propping myself up. So the top leg rests like so on a bolster or a cushion. And then the left leg, in this case, I'm going to swing it back. So it's the right leg. The right leg's behind me. I reach for the right leg and stretch into the thigh. Okay. Once you've set it up, you can rest your head down. And we breathe. So it's a stretch, again, a passive stretch for the front of the thigh. It's got a little bit of an extension through the spine, a little bit of rotation as well. In some ways, it's quite a complex pose, but it's relatively accessible even for less flexible people. Breathing there, staying connected, and see if you can hook your attention into the sensations, particularly around the front of the pelvis, front of the right hip. And then we release. Release the top arm, release the leg down. Let's come round onto the back and come into semi-supine. Breathing there. Take a few breaths. Nice easy neutral pose with the back flat on the floor. And then I'm going to bring the hands once again to the knees, coming into Apanasana. So just gently mobilizing, exhale, floating the knees towards you. Inhale, floating away. Exhale, floating in. Inhale, floating away. Okay, so I don't know how you get on with this, Sandra, but we're going to come up into sitting. So this may be a bit tricky. You need lots of support behind you. If you don't fancy doing it, then you sit between the feet, and then the idea is to rest back first onto the forearms. We've done good preparation there with the cattail pose and with the seal and with the Sphinx pose. So we're really stretching strongly now into the thighs, but it's a really beneficial pose. The trouble with this pose is not really that great for beginners because a lot of people really struggle with it. So you might just get people to sit and lean into their hands to begin with until they get more stretched in the front of the thighs, okay? And the way to prepare the thighs would be like lunges and the cattail pose. So if you can, I just touch into that. I generally do this with a bolster at least the first time, and then you can extend the arms above the head. But if it's not coming very easily, then don't stay for too long there. So just gently coming back up. Use the hands to push back up. And then you bring yourself round. And now we lay over the bolster. So the bolster comes across the mat. You bring the bolster underneath the hips and just lay out like you're floating on the surface of the sea. It should feel like it helps to decompress. Just bring the mic a bit closer. Should feel like it decompresses the lower spine and you release the arms, completely surrendering to the floor in the prone position. So it's really important to stretch out the front of the thighs because it helps to keep the pelvis and the lower back freer in terms of movement, helps with just everyday movements like walking around, sitting, standing up. So often we get really tight in the thighs and the hip flexors, so everything around the front of the pelvis. So it's recommended to work on that area. Some of the postures, like the basic posture work would be the lunge, which we did in the last yin session a few weeks back. Okay, from there, carefully coming up to all fours. And let's just see, going now. Okay, yeah, so we're going to come back onto the back of the body again. And so it's not a very complex sequence, this, okay? So the first position is bringing the knees towards us, and then we're going to bring both legs to one side, okay? So it's a simple twist. This is the first position, and you're looking to, just bring the mic again. You want to bring both shoulders down and the gaze up or to opposite to the legs. And just allow the body to soften here. So it's a gentle twist, supine twist. Releasing the arms, the legs. Letting your body really quieten down into the twist. Relaxing, releasing the face, the eyes. And then from there, you release the top leg up first, and then the lower leg follows that leg, and you swing around to the other side. Again, you can take the gaze opposite to the legs if that feels okay on the neck. If you want, just keep the head centered. So it's asymmetric poses. The interesting aspect of asymmetric poses can often show up differences in the two sides of the body. So for example, for me, it definitely feels more comfortable going this way to the left than it does going to the right. Yeah, because I've got, for whatever reason, probably, yeah, there's a sense of congestion or tension in the right side of the body, which is also, as it were, normal. We've got asymmetric bodies. And the asymmetric poses help to show that or highlight. So it's just a way of getting to know your body, which could be useful. Again, connecting with the breath. And then from there, on an inhale, floating the top leg up first. And then come back once again into semi-supine. So we could do more. Okay, we could do more, but I wanted to give a little bit of space to the breath work. It's like with the yoga practices, it always feels quite open-ended. That could be like preparation for a more dynamic practice. But what we're going to do is set ourselves up into So we did this a few weeks ago. I quite like to place the bolster now. It's going along my mat. Okay. Just aware that I've got loads of light. I'm just going to draw the curtain there. So the bolster's going along the mat, and it can be really helpful to have some cushions to sit underneath the knees. Okay. And then for the head, I suggest you have a little bit of a cushion as well. So the head is slightly higher than the chest. I'm going to just try with these bricks underneath the outer hips. So when I say the outer hips, like the top of the thigh, I'm just I'm just propping up the top outer thigh. So it feels a little bit less strenuous. So the position of the feet and legs feels a little bit less strenuous. You want it to be fairly neutral in the body to do the breath work, because if you've got a lot going on in the body, if it feels really demanding in the body, like on the groins, then it'll take your attention away from the breath. So you can prop up the outer legs or even just cross the legs and have the legs in a more comfortable position or even straighten out. And then from here, we're going to bring the hands onto the lower belly, just where you feel the head of the pelvis, the front of the pelvis. Okay, so it's like the hip bones, as we sometimes call them. It's actually the pelvic crest. Okay, and then the elbows, you rest onto the floor and we close the eyes. So we're going to do a 3-part breath here, just briefly touching into the 3 phases. But first of all, doing a simple breath just to connect in with the breath. So just let your body breathe freely and without any effort. Sonic's just appeared. Sonic, go sit over there. Over there. Sit. Sit down. Okay. So I'd like you to now, with the first phase of the 3-part breath, is to slightly deepen the exhales and inhales, but really into the belly area. So there's a sense of inhaling, filling the belly, and exhale, emptying the belly. So it's very much working with the breath that we started with at the beginning of the session. Gonna put Sonic outside. It's just come my way tonight. The first round is inhale, exhale, deeper exhales, and not being in any rush whatsoever to deepen the breath. Just let it deepen gradually. You can really feel your hands filling up with the inhale and the exhale, feeling the belly sinking. Keeping us or releasing the face, relaxing your face. Relaxing the inner legs and focusing most of your attention on the breath, deepening the exhale, deepening the inhale into the belly area. This is part one. So we're going to now move the hands onto the lower ribs. Just like not much of a distance there, just swinging the palms up. So you're letting, I quite like to have my, yeah, half the palm is on the ribs, got a couple of fingers still on the belly. And take the hands slightly wider. So we're going to, with the second part of the three-part breath, we're going to see if we can breathe now, especially with the in-breath, up into the hands. So you let your exhale be deep or deeper. And as you inhale, a sense of filling up the belly and then filling up the hands. And you'll feel the sense of the body broadening as well as the belly filling. There's a sense of the lower ribs broadening and widening. And we'll naturally move into a deeper, longer breath cycle. Again, just checking that you're releasing the face, relaxing the face, relaxing the groins, the pelvic floor. And let your breath follow its own rhythm with a slightly deeper exhale and then a deeper inhale. Just do a few rounds. Obviously, with the breath going slower, you're just going to do maybe 5 or 6 breaths in a minute. So we're not retaining the breath. We're just letting, as soon as we fill up, let the breath go again. As soon as we empty the breath, breathe in again. So there's no restriction, no retention, kumbhaka. The continuous process, exhaling, inhaling, and bringing the breath into your hands. And then letting go of that second part of the breath. We're going to now shift the hands a little bit higher. So this can sometimes feel a little bit awkward with the arms. It's like a kind of chicken wing position. So yeah, I'm swinging my forearms way back onto the upper arm, and I'm resting my fingertips just above, sorry, just below the collarbone, just below, so like the pectoral area. And this can get a little bit intense because we're going to invite the breath. It's probably better to think of inviting the breath rather than forcing the breath in all the way up to the top lungs. Okay, so take your time, maybe just center yourself again. Center yourself around the breath. The breath is going to obviously be slower and deeper, so there's no rush. Complete exhale. And when you're ready, fill in the belly, fill in the mid body, and then lift the breath higher up into the fingertips. Once you feel full, you let the breath go again, all the way out. No retention, no kumbhaka. So breath retention is a development of that called kumbhaka, but we'll do that another time. We'll just keep a simple flow going. And when you're ready, a deep exhale on your own time. Deep inhale. Letting the breath flow down, flow out. And we'll just do 4 or 5 cycles, our own rhythm. I'll just let you work with that. Try to stay centered around the breath experience. So a deep exhale followed by a deep in breath all the way up to the fingertips. Hmm. Often, just towards the end of that long in breath, it can feel like you're kind of squeezing the breath up into the top lungs. So no, try to be really gentle, keep the face relaxed and release. So we'll just do one more round of deep exhale, followed by all 3 parts. So filling the belly, filling the mid ribs, filling the top chest. And then when you're ready, releasing out. Okay, so we're going to release the arms away from the body. So once again, the demand there, well, it can be physically demanding because we're moving into muscles which we don't so much exercise or use in the upper back and upper chest. But also there's the challenge of just staying present and concentrated. So I want you to bring soles of the feet onto the floor. So the legs have been there for quite a while in that position. So hence it really is a good idea to prop the legs up if you can. And then we're going to carefully roll to one side. Remember, you've got the raise of the bolster. I want you to bring the bolster around underneath your knees and just have a slight raise for the back of the head, a cushion or one of these. I've got these foam bricks here. So we're setting up for Shavasana. I've got no idea what time it is. Okay, oh gosh, it's yeah. My daughter just let the dog in. I've just had to put him out. So we're going to come into Shavasana for 5 or 6 minutes. So one of the effects of the breath work for me is like it calms or pacifies like the upper body. I think what we're doing is we're working like the intrinsic muscles in between in between the rib cage, the ribs, they're all getting work stretched out a little bit and then releasing. So it's just that basic principle of contraction releasing, which is always beneficial, almost always beneficial for the muscles. So you may well be feeling a sense of calm and energy in the upper body. If you're not, that's fine. Can also bring up quite strong emotions sometimes, the breath work. I'd like you to rest back into Shavasana and just let your limbs release from the joints, releasing the hands from the wrists, the forearms from the elbow, the whole of the arm releasing from the shoulders, letting the arms go. And likewise with the legs, you're releasing the feet from the ankles, the lower leg from the knee, and then the whole of the leg from the hip. So we did focus a little bit onto the hip area. I deliberately didn't want to do any, often yin poses can be quite demanding on the knees, so I avoided like swan pose, for example, and a lot of cross-legged poses. So this should be fairly accessible even if you've got tightness around the knees. But we did work into the hip joint, particularly the hip flexor, front of the hip. And then bringing your awareness into like the core of the body, the belly, solar plexus, chest, heart area, throat, spine. Aware of all the vital organs, the liver, lungs, heart, kidneys, digestive tract. And the intention here is to let go. You can close the eyes. So the yin practice, apart from it being a passive practice, it can be quite stimulating energetically. It helps to release energy in the body, unblock blockages, so ironing out tensions, releasing tensions. So you might feel quietly energized, even though we've not done much in terms of moving. Maybe we did like 5 or 6 poses there. But one of the aims of the yin practice is to center the attention, center our attention and energy around the body. And just in this space, so yeah, recently I've just been working with this practice of gratitude. So you might just want to bring into your awareness anything in your life that you can be grateful for and bear that in mind. So there's a sense maybe of calm right now, sense of vitality, sense of possibility, connecting with the quality of gratitude, or being thankful, being grateful. Just letting that thought, that image rest in your heart, mind. So feel free to stay in Shavasana for longer, or feel free to move on to the next thing. It's up to you. Just remember, when you do come to move on, you want to first of all move the toes, fingers, ankles, and wrists. Okay, and then you roll. It's recommended to roll to the right side because the heart is on the left. So it's mildly less stressful for the heart. Okay, so thank you very much, Sandra, for coming along. And I will send out the video, okay, for anybody else. I'll just stop the recording.